All right, hey everybody, my name is Arlisa Thomas, and if you're new here, I am a new semi-truck driver. I've been driving since January of 2022, and I've been on this journey for the entirety of this year. And I have a little bit of a story time. Actually, it's not a little bit of a story time, it's a long bit of a story time. So get your snacks, get your popcorn, get you something to drink, because this is gonna be a long one. Hopefully by the end of this video, well, I know I learned something from this experience. I know you will too. So without further ado, let's get into it. I worked for this, I saw this opportunity. I was looking for something that was a Southeast regional position. The reason why I wanted a Southeast regional position, my dad is older. I just want to be closer to him. So if something happens, I'm not way across the country somewhere. I'm within this region. I can get home within a reasonable amount of time. I found this opportunity on Indeed, and Indeed, y'all need to sponsor me. The company reached out to me, and we began, talking and negotiating and kind of just getting a feel for what the company had to offer. I liked what was being told to me by the owner. I'm gonna name him Johnny. And so everything sounded good. So I decided to take the plunge and go with this company, and I'm gonna call them Broke Down Logistics. The plan was for me to drive up, but my sister ended up having to drop me off because my car wouldn't start, my battery died, and the trouble that I had getting there should have been a sign. Oh, and I forgot, I had to drive back home to go get my purse because somehow I left my purse, and I have to have my license right to be able to drive, or at least I should. That would be good if I got pulled over and I didn't have my license. So it was an ordeal just trying to get there, and that should have been a sign to me that maybe this isn't a good idea. So let's continue on with the story. Right, so I get there, I pull up. He's got this nice Hyundai, like Genesis, I don't know what kind of, it's one of those like really nice Hyundai cars. I'm like, okay, so where's the truck? Because it's a truck repair shop, so there's trucks all around. I don't know which truck is his. So, we exchange pleasantries or whatever. He walks over to the truck, and I'm like, oh, this is the truck? Oh, okay. Maybe, just maybe, it won't look like it does on the inside as it does on the outside. But that was the case. We do a walk around of the truck. We kind of like do orientation inside of the truck, and so he's going over his standards of procedures. Is it standards of procedures or standard of procedure? His SOP. He went over his standard operating procedures. He told me things like, if the fuel gets below 25%, there's a $50 charge, and he explained why. And then he was like, it's a $50 charge if you go over 75 miles an hour, and I'm like, okay, well that shouldn't be an issue. So we went over things like that, and then he went over stuff like your pre-trip. I had to take pictures of different things in the pre-trip, like the tires or the coolant or whatnot, because if there was an issue later that could have been prevented by the pre-trip, it wasn't picked up on the driver because the pre-trip wasn't being done, then the driver would be financially responsible for those costs, at least some of them. It's like, okay, well, I do my pre-trip, so that won't be an issue. He sends me the rate con. He sets me up in Samsara, their ELD app. He tells me that I need to be at the shipper by 8 o'clock. My appointment is at 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he's like, well, go pick up the trailer and then do a driving test. So on the way there, he's like, well, you know how to drive. You've been driving for 10 months. We'll just go get the trailer and then you can be on your way. I'm like, okay, cool. That's one less thing I have to worry about. I get to the place where the trailer is, and it's a trailer repair shop. We're going over a couple of things. Like, he showed me how loose the airline was. I was like, dang, that's kind of jank how that's up there with the little carabiner, but okay. He showed me where the handle was to slide your tandems, and then he opened the doors to the trailer, and this big old muscular dude who could probably bench press like two of me had a hard time opening the doors, and then had an even harder time closing the doors. And I'm like, well, if you are struggling closing the doors, what am I supposed to do? I'm gonna struggle too. And I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just rusty. He was like, oh, there's WD-40 in the truck, you could just spray it on there and that'll help it to close like it's supposed to. And I'm like, okay, well, where is that? Why aren't you spraying it? Like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go because I got a couple hours drive back home. I need to get home to my family. Just go ahead and head over to the shipper. You have a few hours, so if you wanted to go, there's a truck stop like right up the way, right up the road. You can go there and maybe get some sleep or something, and then head over to Georgia where you got to pick up at. I'm like, okay. So far at this point, I picked up the truck from the repair shop, and I picked up the trailer from the repair shop. So now I'm headed to the truck stop because I wanted to top off my fuel, and then I wanted to slap my tandems because I didn't like where they were because it was a little bit harder to make my turns because they were further back than they needed to be. I was empty, so I was like, let me just go ahead and slide my Tandem. I don't know why I thought to do that. I don't even think that was an issue with me doing that. It shouldn't have been hard. I know how to slide my tandems. I couldn't get it to stay. I was fighting with it to you know how you pull it? Because it wasn't one of the push button tandems, so I had to pull it, but it wouldn't stay out. Like my pins wouldn't stay locked out, you know, like they were supposed to. So then I moved out of the way because there are trucks that are trying to get around me. I was out of the way, but the traffic was starting to build up. So I was like, you know what? Let me pull into the fuel aisle, try to do it there. So there was a guy ahead of me getting fuel, and I was like, well, let me ask him. So I asked him. He starts walking back to the truck. He's hobbling, and I'm like, oh no. And I already asked him, and I can't be like, oh, don't worry about it because you look like you're injured. Like, how do you express that to somebody? So he comes back there. He's trying to pull the kingpin. I mean, not the kingpin. He's trying to pull the handle for the tandems, and it's not staying like it's supposed to. So he eventually was like, oh, I just had hernia surgery. I would try to help you more. And then he asked me for the number to the company. Long story short, they didn't move, and I was like, that's all right. They probably can just stay where they are. It will probably be fine with my weight and whatever when I get loaded. So I ended up leaving. Okay, so yeah, I asked the guy for help, and we're chatting. He's, you know, just trying to direct me into what to do because I'm in the cab and he's out there trying to pull it. So eventually, you know, we can't get it fixed or whatever, but we're just chatting, and he asked me for the name of the company. He was just asking me how long I had been there, and I was like, well, actually, this is my first day. Supposed to be driving in the Southeast region. I might do some one-offs here and there at somewhere that's not within the Southeast region, but the majority of my driving area will be in the Southeast. And he was telling me he had been driving for so long. You know, we were just talking. He asked for the contact information for my company, so I gave it to him. So then I get this call later as I had left there. The owner of the company, Johnny, calls me and was like, did you give my number to somebody? And then he brushes over that and he was like, yeah, this guy called and he was saying that you were having a hard time at the truck stop. And I was like, yeah, but I'm fine now. I'm headed to the shipper. I almost forgotten about that because I was just so focused on getting to the shipper. And then he was like, yeah, you know, I told you that you had to be there at 8, but really you need to be there at 7. And then I told him that I had gotten a couple of calls from the brokers, and he was like, yeah, you know, just ignore them next time. But if you happen to answer on accident, just tell them that you're on the way there and don't ever give them a time. And I'm like, okay. So is this gonna be a thing that I'm gonna get harassed by the brokers? And harassed I did, because they call often. Like I'm not used to that. I've never had brokers ever calling me asking me where a load is or whatever. So I make it to the shipper before 7 o'clock and definitely before 8, because I think they stop at 8 o'clock. And I think that was what the issue was. So they had like a 2-step check-in process. I get into the dock, I get loaded, you know. So he gives me paperwork. He tells me to go up the road to get my last 2 pallets because the last 2 pallets somehow got cut or something. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go get the 2 pallets. He was like, you need to go scale out and then go get your paperwork from the office. So, and then I knew that I could park where I had just gotten my last 2 pallets at because they told me I could. On the way there, I start to lose air. Before I start to lose air, I hear this loud boom. I'm like, what is that? Then I see my air creeping. I'm like, no. And I was behind this truck, and it was probably like the grace of God that, I would have slowed down anyway, but he was creeping along. So I was already annoyed that this truck was driving so slow on this road. And I'm like, thank God it's not a busy road, because you don't have no flashes on or nothing. You just like crawling down the street. Man, so I'm like, Lord, just let me get into this parking lot and park, because I don't want to be on the side of the road. There's like no shoulder like whatsoever. So thank God I made it into the parking lot and I was able to back into a space. I get out of the truck and I look, and guess what? My airlines are broken apart. Not separated, completely broke. They are broken off of the trailer. And the carabiner that's holding the airlines up onto the little silver thing right here, that's broken. I'm like, oh my God. So when I was doing my little orientation with Johnny, he was like, if there's a breakdown, don't wake me up at 2 in the morning. It's something that can be fixed the next day. Like, if you're in a safe location, I don't want to pay breakdown, that overnight fee, that extra money that it's going to cost for them to come out to fix something that can be fixed that next morning. So I was like, well, I'm sending pictures and then I'm going to shut down for the night. First day at the new job, it's been an interesting journey so far. Like, you know, making it here to the shipper. Made it to the shipper, got unloaded, and my airlines broke. I'm currently waiting on my company to get back to me so that they can fix it. The shipper's already been like, you gotta go. It's like, I'm waiting on the tow truck. So, but it's gonna work out. It's gonna get better. I'm positive that it's gonna turn around. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he just walked off. Nobody bothered me anymore, but I was worried. So I started calling the company, like reaching out to them, texting them. I called my dispatcher, texted him separately from this group chat, because on the group chat, it's me, the owner of the company, the dispatcher, and then the maintenance guy, who is also the business partner of the owner, who I interface with. Nobody was saying anything, so I started taking pictures in the daylight and reaching out. So eventually I got Johnny, and Johnny was not understanding me. He was like, why didn't you bobtail to the truck stop and get your airlines fixed? And I'm like, not the airlines on the tractor, it's the airlines on the trailer. They are broken off completely. And so finally he got it. Like I had to FaceTime him or something, because I guess the pictures weren't telling the full story. I don't know. He was like, well, let me work on this. I'll see if you need to go and get a part, because it'll probably be cheaper or faster if you go and get this part rather than having breakdown. Go and get the part and then bring it. Now I'm gonna go and pick up a part to bring it to the shipper where I'm stuck at. Then come back, and hopefully by then Roadside should be here to get me squared away. Let my boss know that I am ready to head back to go take the part back so I can get on the road. Come to find out, that's not the right part. The part that I have doesn't have circuit breakers on it. So I ended up having to leave where we were and go to the Roadside person's shop. So we're headed there. He's leading the way, because if I get pulled over, because I don't have trailer lights. My brakes are working and everything. Like, he fixed those, but the box is still broken for the electrical pigtail. So I'm pulling into where I'm gonna stop so that they can fix the rest of what needs to be fixed on my trailer with the electrical pigtail. My brakes are smoking. And I'm like, what in the world? All right, so I'm super grateful for the shop guys. They came running out with fire extinguishers. Well, luckily it happened just as I was coming up to the shop. The problem was the pigtail had broken, and nobody could see that it was actually damaged too, because the little rubber connector thing that keeps it from breaking was covering that, so it wasn't getting the air that it was supposed to. So that's what caused that. But everything is good now. It's about to be fixed. We fixed it. So I let the guy know, the owner, so he doesn't say anything about it, and I continue to tell him about how long it's going to take for the truck to get fixed or whatever. But while I was waiting, I had to check the tires and find out how many tires needed to be fixed. And so it's daylight now, so I could take a good look at the tires and get good pictures of them and stuff. And so he asked me about how many tires do you think will need to be replaced? Because let me go back. When I looked at the tires at the trailer repair shop in Florida, they were covered in mud, so I couldn't see how bad they were. They were pretty bad. So fast forward from the Roadside repair shop. I'm at the trailer repair shop. I spent the night there, and it'll be 5 tires. Five tires. 5 tires that need to be repaired on this trailer. My tires fixed on the trailer. Quick, they're moving fast. It's a busy place. Like, I thank God I was able to make it to the trailer repair shop. So those tires get repaired, and then I take off, because I don't know if I've told you, my pickup was in Georgia. I was headed to Pennsylvania. In North Carolina, I stopped at this truck stop because I wanted to use the restroom and grab a bite to eat. So I'm pulling into the fuel aisle. As I'm pulling in, I hear something go boom. And I'm like, no. Because it's right behind me. And I'm like, please don't let it be the airlines. Sure enough, guess what? My red airline separates, and the electrical box that just got installed is cracked. Like, you've got to be kidding me. What I didn't say was, as I'm leaving the Roadside repair shop, headed to the trailer repair shop, South Georgia, and I was headed to Atlanta, I'm talking to Johnny, and Johnny was saying, if there's a repair that happens to happen like this again, we are gonna need to make this right. You're gonna have to pay something, because you're not turning like a normal professional semi-truck driver. Like, I noticed when we were headed to go get the trailer from the trailer repair shop that you made a wide turn. And I'm like, well, for one, I'm not used to the truck, how it drives. I've driven Volvos before, but they're normally pretty tight. I don't remember them being loose, but I've been in an international for the past month. It's like, I'm getting used to this truck, and it's a little wobbly, but not too bad. I found out something about that later. So anyway, okay, you see where my airlines are hoisted? It was repaired like this yesterday at the trailer repair shop. And it's not even on the little spring thing right there. So I'm making a turn into the fuel aisle and I hear something go boom. Look, my electrical box for my pigtail is broken. Can you believe that? And my airline for my emergency air brakes or emergency line, it separated. So now I went inside to go get some tape. I already got the tape and I'm gonna try to like repair it. So I'm pulling out of the fuel line, I'm making a turn, and it happens again. And I'm like, oh my God. I can hear the air seeping out. And I'm watching my gauges, go down. So I get out and I fix it again. And now I'm trying to back into a spot so I can at least have somebody come and look at it, right? And get out of the way, because there's people trying to get around me. And like, it's embarrassing because you got all them trucks in there watching you fight. The truck is already raggedy. And then the trailer is raggedy. Like, I was just embarrassed, man. I was just embarrassed. So I could not back in. So I was like, you know what? I need to keep this truck and this trailer straight. So let me pull up. I pulled up parallel to where the shop was. I tried to repair it and it didn't work. This separated also, so I started losing air. I reconnected it and then I ended up replacing the glad can seal because it was a little warm. So, almost fell. So, what I think is happening is this is up here and it's not getting the slack that it needs to turn like it would be if it was on this thing, which is not working. I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know, but you can tell me what you want me to do. What I'm afraid of is this breaking, me losing my trailer lights, and also I'm afraid of this separating somehow because it's separated twice. Tried to back into a spot and it did it again. So the shop here is closed because they're moving. So I'll give him a call. He's upset. He's like, he's not gonna pay for it. Well, I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for it either because it's not my fault that this crap broke. Try not to cuss. I mean, like, yeah, I'm not paying for it. So either we gotta figure something out because I at least need to get home because my patience is wearing thin. I broke down in Georgia, now I'm broke down in North Carolina. He called me back and calmed down. He's like, I just had something else stressful going on that I was trying to figure out. And then he tells me something about somebody's license expired and they were trying to Photoshop the date. It looked like it wasn't expired. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? I don't need to know this. I wouldn't tell anybody that either. He was like, just take it to the nearest truck stop. And he asked me where it was. And I was like, it's a Love's about 6 miles up the road. He was like, okay, cool. When you get there, let me know. I'm like, all right. So I make it to the Love's, thank God, because I'm trying to keep my turns and everything small at this point because I don't want nothing else to come apart, especially going down the highway because I gotta get back on the highway to make it to that Love's. I make it to the Love's, I get on the list, there's 4 other trucks in front of me. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, how many mechanics on staff? They were like, 1. I was like, all righty, well, you were like, go ahead and park and then we'll call you when we're ready. I'm like, okay. So I go to park and I'm trying to keep my movement small again, right? But you gotta, what is that, a 90? It's a 90 or a 45? I can never get it right. I think that's a 90. But it kind of ends up being 45 because anyway, this guy next to me where I was trying to get into, he actually came out and helped me back in. So that made it go by a lot faster. And then I was just talking to him. He was saying it's probably gonna be a long time and that they might not even have the shop open at night. So I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and get ready for bed or whatever. But I had my phone on me the entire night. I kept checking my phone to make sure that I didn't get a call or anything. I didn't. All right, so I go and I check in the morning, and just to make sure I'm still on the list. There's 2 people in front of me. They said that the wait was going to be about 30 to 45 minutes. It ended up being an hour. I get called back. They direct you where you're gonna go and help you pull into the bay or back in or do whatever you're gonna do. But I ended up pulling in and then my trailer was basically outside of the bay. And so I'm talking to the mechanic and explaining what my boss wants done to the truck. And he was like, yeah, I'm not gonna touch this truck unless I fix everything, because what my boss wanted to do was not to fix the electrical box that was broken, just to securely hoist the airlines like they were supposed to be, and that's it. And he was like, nah, either we gonna fix the box, the electrical box too, and of course, I can hoist the the airlines like they're supposed to be mounted, or I could just not do anything at all. Because if your lights go out on your trailer or something like that, and somehow the DOT finds out who fixed it last or whatever, he could get in trouble. So it's like, hey, I don't care what y'all think. I mean, whatever the arrangement is, if he decides to fix it or not. Like at this point, I was starting to check out. Like I was holding on by a thread for the hope that I had for this situation. So anyway, my boss, I guess you could call him that, Johnny, decides that he's gonna go ahead and have what needs to be repaired. So took the mechanic a couple of hours to fix it, and my boss wanted to make sure that I can make a U-turn and nothing pop off or break or anything like that. So I literally backed out of the bay, and the mechanic helped me back out. I went and I made a U-turn, and then he checked the airlines to make sure everything was straight. I think I forgot to tell my boss that I did that, but I did do it because that's something that he requested. So now, before I left, the dispatcher asked me if I could make it to Pennsylvania by 6. I'm in Virginia, southernmost point of Virginia. And I'm like, I mean, I can try, but my ETA, I think, ended up being like 5:45 or something. And I told me, if I left right now, and the truck hadn't even been done yet, I think it was like another 30 minutes before it was completely fixed, and I was in the truck. I was like, I can try, but I don't think I'll make that. So he never said anything else to me, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and head to Pennsylvania. So I did. Ran into 2 accidents, and I updated them along the way. Still didn't hear anything back from dispatch. So I finally made it. Finally. I'm so happy to be here. And they tell me they rescheduled me for Monday. It is Friday, so I had to sit in a truck stop 2 days. So I'm kind of worried, like, am I gonna find somewhere? I tried to go to the Love. The Love's was full, and they were shutting down the pumps because it was something wrong with them. It was like, can I park in front of this fuel aisle? And it was like, no, because you might be blocking somebody behind you or whatever, but thanks for asking. And like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have just parked there anyway. But there was a petrol station right next door. And so I was able to pull into a spot at Petro. It like worked out perfectly. So trying to stay warm at this truck stop, I get a text message saying that, and it's a screenshot of fuel being at 16%, and then another screenshot of the little list of, I guess, don'ts and do's and don'ts. And one of the things highlighted on that list is that $50 charge if your fuel gets below 25%. So I'm like, all right, so what do you want me to do? Like, what, how much gas can I get? Because I'm not dispatched on a load, so I didn't think that I could get any fuel until I got ready to leave. But I also didn't think that the fuel was gonna dip down this low. I'm trying to stay warm. It's cold, So he told me I can go get $200. And so I went and I got the fuel, and then I'm like, I had subsequently at some point come across this post in one of the trucking groups that I'm a part of, and they were saying that you basically lose like a gallon or a gallon and a half of fuel per hour. So I was like, well, I can't let this truck sit here and idle like this, because if I let it idle too long, I'm gonna be right back in the same position that I'm at tomorrow. So I would turn it on just enough to warm the truck up, and then like put on my jacket and bundle up and stuff, and like get in my sleeping bag to stay warm like that. When I slept, the truck wasn't on. I was just bundled up, and I was fine, honestly, as long as I was bundled up and I had my head covered. But it sucked because if I didn't have my head covered, where that window was, I didn't even talk about the other issues and stuff in the truck, but yeah, the window right there. This window is open. Like there's no glass on the other side. Let in cold air. Thank God it didn't rain, because he was like, you can duct tape this window. I was like, I'm not duct taping this unless I absolutely have to. But like, how much tape am I going to use, and how well is this going to work? I wouldn't want duct tape on the interior of my truck, on a panel or anything like that. So I tried not to duct tape it, but hopefully he's gonna get the window fixed or whatever. And he claimed that he didn't know about that until he was getting ready to turn the truck over to me. But back to the story. So then the next day, I have to ask for fuel again. He gave me enough to get to the receiver. So Sunday, my truck started leaking oil, or Saturday or Sunday, because it didn't move for 2 days. I went to do the pre-trip to go and get fuel, to re-up on my fuel because it had run low, and saw that I had a gigantic puddle. So I had an oil leak, and I was like, again, Lord, just get me home. Just get me home, God. All right, I made it to my shipper. All right, I'm going. Lights don't know where to go. I'm waiting in the wings at the staging area. Anyway, yeah, so hopefully I can get on up out of here. I have no idea where I'm going next. It's Monday, Thanksgiving is Thursday. We're gonna see. And I forgot to mention, when I was getting it repaired at the Loves, the mechanic was like, your airbags are slanted. And I was like, is that why the truck be handling like that? He was like, yes, your airbags are not supposed to be slanted. They're supposed to be straight up and down. So I go, thank God, there were no issues delivering my load. I got there a couple hours early into right under that 2-hour mark. So like an hour and 45 minutes early. They accepted me. I was able to get in and pretty much get out with no issues or problems. So while I'm waiting there, I'm like, all right, dispatch, what's up? Like, what am I doing next? And he was like, I'm trying to find you a load out of there. Probably won't find nothing until the morning. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to the truck stop that I was at. Saturday or Sunday, I had gotten Chinese, so I had leftovers that I had been eating off of. So I was good in the food department. I get up this Monday morning, I'm getting ready to warm up my food, and I realized that the food is warm. So the fridge stopped working. So I ended up having to throw out the rest of my Chinese food. I head over to another place in Pennsylvania. It's probably like 15, 20, no more than 30 minutes away to the shipper. I get there, they're like, slide your tandles. I'm like, oh my God, no, don't make me do this. Cause it was so hard to do it before, and I didn't end up doing it. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to slide my tandles. I can't get it. I've fought and done all the stuff that I know, trying to come up off of it, ease the pressure off of them a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop this trailer, because we had to drop the trailer and then bobtail to another location in the at the shipper and wait. And then once you were done, you could go and connect to your trailer and leave. So I was like, I'm just gonna hope that they're not gonna make me have to slide them. Sure enough, I got a call. Oh, you didn't slide your tandles? I was like, oh, okay. So now I have to do it. I struggle and I struggle and I struggle. And there's a truck waiting to get past me. So he got mad and he zoomed on past me. He aggressively backed into his parking space and then looked over at me and then like drove on off. And I'm like, whatever, because you could have helped me out. I mean, I wasn't trying to be in your way. It is what it is. I'm still struggling, and I see this guy who is waiting also for me. So I walked over there into him and he was like, I already know what's up. So I asked him, can you please help me slide my tandles? So he was like, okay. So he came over, he showed me, I had this little handle in my cab that would help you do it. He explained it, I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, but he helped me slide them back. I think he had to hold them to get them to stay out like they were supposed to until I could slide to get them in the far in the back of my trailer. Get the tandles back like they needed to be. Then, disconnect everything, let my trailer, land to get down, I'll go and I'll wait. And so now they call me, I'm ready to go. So I hook everything back up, I pull out of the space completely so that I can at least get out of the way, and then attempt to close my trailer doors. Now I can't get the doors closed. I'm like, what in the? And I can already feel the soreness from pulling trying to pull that handle so many times and it not staying like it's supposed to. So there's this other guy, he helps me out. He was like, you need help closing your doors? And then he was saying, sometimes you can't close your doors unless you slit your tandles back to wherever you want to, slit your tandles forward. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. So he helped me do that. He actually had to hold it because it would not stay locked out like it was supposed to, I still had issues closing the door. So then he tried closing the doors. We just barely got them closed. He just barely got them closed. Like, this is a man. He's using all of his man strength. I am a woman. I am not as strong as a man. So can you imagine me trying to do that on my own, all by myself? I wouldn't have gotten those doors closed. They weren't closing for me, and they barely closed for him. And all of the latches on there weren't latched, just 3 out of the 4. It's like, well, I'm just gonna pray that the doors don't open. We pulled on it, tugged on the door, and it wasn't opening. So it was like latched in, but not completely latched. I don't know if that makes sense. I was like, I just need to get back to Florida. I can be done with this. So I get my paperwork, I hit the road because I deliver, this is Monday still. So I delivered at 2:30 p.m. the next day. So I had plenty of time to get there. So I'm just trying to get as close as I can to Florida because I was delivering in Florida. I got close, but I just had to stop. So I stopped probably about 5 hours into the trip. I think I had about another 5 hours left. But I'm reading the reviews before I left while I was waiting to be loaded to, figure out, okay, we're gonna have overnight parking at this receiver. How long does it take? How early can you get there? How to get inside, blah, blah, like what's the check-in process or whatever. Sometimes people will leave reviews. I always look at that. The reviews are awful. They talk about how mean the person is at the guard shack, how there's no parking, how you have to kind of just park anywhere, how you might get turned away if you're a couple hours early or an hour early or even 10 minutes early. And I'm like, dang, you pissed somebody off if you were 10 minutes early and they made you leave and come back. But when I got there, the gate attendant, she was nice, or I'm always nice anyway. She let me come in. I was a little bit over 2 hours early. She gave me a door. She told me to slide my antennas. I did not. And I was, again, just hoping that I didn't have to slide them. Otherwise, I was gonna have to figure it out. Don't judge me. You can, I don't care. I got in there, I made my U-turn to set up to back into the dock. Backed into, she gave me door 105. I backed into 106. I'm like, and then there was a Martin dude, a Martin truck. He was like, you open your door. So I stopped and I was explaining to him, yeah, I know, I'm moving. He's like, you gotta pull up that far. I was like, yeah, I need to move because I need to pull up this far so I can get into my dock. I pulled it into 106, I need to be in 105. So I opened my doors, put my paperwork in there like she told me to, got it in the door. I did not slide my antennas. I don't think he had slid his either. Everybody else had slid there. So I'm like, oh, we gonna see. But yeah, I was in and out. I wasn't there 2 hours. I don't even think I was there an hour and a half. I had, my boss was like, let me know when you're about to leave. He gave me the address. He basically told me, so this is what I had to do. I basically took the trailer back to the trailer repair shop. All right, made it back. I just did my airlines. They're already on hook. I couldn't get it back on there, but that's all right. The joy that I felt putting this landing gear on, scratching up this thing right there. Y'all just don't know. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm dropping the trailer here where I'm supposed to be on the main road here so that it can get worked on again. And then I'm going to go drop the truck off. And I tell you, I'm beyond happy. I had to jerry-rig this because I couldn't quite close the door, so I was hoping it didn't fly open. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not gonna miss you. You hear me? I'm not gonna miss you. And then I took his truck back to the truck repair shop. He was like, leave the key and the gas card because I'm gonna try to do some runs this weekend. And then, we'll fix whatever's wrong with the truck and then you'll be set to go for Monday. So after I got everything out of the truck, I was like, I think this is gonna work for me. As I was headed home, he's like, okay. There were certain things that if I didn't work but for a certain amount of time, I was gonna have to basically, like my drug test and stuff like that, I wouldn't get that money back, if that makes sense. So I don't know what I'm gonna get. I doubt that I'll get much of anything. I feel like I just worked for free for the week, but it was an experience. I learned some stuff and I am done. I'm moving on. I'm starting with a new company in a couple of days and I'm very thankful that I made it back home. I'm thankful that for all the people that helped me out. I'm thankful for the opportunity, funny enough, because I learned some stuff that I wouldn't have learned if I was just, I guess, a regular company driver. And I was thankful to make it back home for Thanksgiving. I got to spend it with my family, most importantly my dad. So would I do that again? Probably not. Yeah, I need to go be somebody company driver for a little bit longer. A little bit longer, because when there's a repair that needs to be made, there's no question. They just fix it. There's no, you did this and that and the other. In my experience, well, I don't know. With Swift, I could just go hop in another truck, or just wait until a breakdown came if I was somewhere else and I couldn't, I wasn't at the yard and could just go hop in another truck or whatever. But yeah, I don't have to worry about getting piecemeal for my fuel. I don't have to worry about nobody trying to blame stuff on me and talk about how I'm gonna have to pay for repairs on this is your stuff. This is not mine. Why am I paying for repairs on your stuff? If it's my truck, then I understand having to pay for the repairs because that's my responsibility. But let me just say this. I get it, as a business owner, if I got a driver constantly tearing up my stuff, then I guess, I would expect them to pay for it or pay some of the cost, the repair costs. But in this instance, that crap was raggedy. It was raggedy before I got it. So don't even try to charge me for something that is in a bad shape and like try to pass that cost on to me. Like, I wasn't born yesterday. This is raggedy when I got it. You know that. You knew that this was some ghetto jerry mess. Like the way them airlines was hooked up. Like the thing, you see this. You see this. This is not supposed to be loose like that. So I'm not paying for that. No. And I guess I should have been straight up about it, but I figured it wouldn't be an issue again. And like, honestly, the first person who fixed it, they should have hoisted that stuff up like it was done the second time it got repaired. But I didn't know any better. Now I do. I thought, okay, well, I guess it will slide like it needs to, but no, it didn't. And that's why that crap was breaking. And for somebody who's been a mechanic for however long, you've seen these. This isn't the first time that he's had to repair something like that. He knew that wasn't right. So yeah, lesson learned. Lesson learned. If you walk into somebody's truck, first of all, have them send you pictures. Maybe have them FaceTime you or video chat you or something so you can see it for yourself. Secondly, they need to have the truck detailed. Thirdly, if you get there and things just aren't right with you, don't just go forward with it. Don't make no compromise. Just walk away. Be like, you know what? I don't think this is gonna work for me. Like, there isn't gonna be anything that is gonna happen to you that is bad. Like, he made it clear to me when we were first going over everything, sticking it in the truck, that I needed to bring the truck back, because he would hit me with an abandonment on my record, and I did not want that. That's why I held on so hard. Even my mentor was like, when he was like, he ain't paying for nothing, leave that stuff there. It's like, I don't want no abandonment on my record. I'm just trying to dump this load so I can come back. Everything ended up working out. So with everything that I experienced, I always try to find the lesson in it, because I don't want it to happen to me again, at least for a long time, right? And then also, maybe my experience can help you, because I don't want you to have to go through that, Oh man, because it sucked. I think the difference for me with this experience, comparing it to when I was at a mega carrier, or at least a larger trucking company than this, where they had hundreds of trucks, so I'm going to call this a micro carrier. So at the micro carrier, there are things that I would get charged for, like if my fuel level went below 25%, that was a $50 charge, or if I went over 75 miles per hour, I got hit with a charge. It's just, there are certain things that you don't have to worry about. Like, the owner determines whether or not you are responsible for a repair. Like, he deems, like with the whole airlines being broken, he was trying to charge me for that. And I'm like, no, that is not something that I caused. There wasn't negligence on my part that caused these airlines to break. That was negligence really on your part, because the way that you had it rigged did not make sense, and it wasn't sufficient. And with a mega carrier, if there's an issue like that, you're not typically getting charged for those repair costs. You just tell them that it needs to be fixed, and then it gets fixed, hopefully within a reasonable amount of time. Another thing I had to do was send these pre-trip pictures. At my other companies, I just did my pre-trip. I didn't have to show evidence that the pre-trip was done, and I did them for my peace of mind, because I'm about to get on the road with this equipment. I want to make sure that it's okay, that it's road safe. Like, none of these things with the fees for like the fuel or going over the miles per hour, or repairs, are big things by themselves, but all of those things combined just made the job more stressful than I felt like it needed to be. In my case with this micro carrier, and I'm not saying that this is across the board for any of the other trucking companies, but in my case, the equipment was subpar. The tractor was subpar and the trailer was subpar. And what I haven't mentioned before is that the truck smelled like pee. They realized that. I don't know how I didn't smell it. I don't know if it was the excitement or what, but the truck was funky. The truck didn't get detailed. Like, how do you put a new person in a truck and you don't detail it? Like, who does that? And then he had the nerve to tell me that he wasn't going to pay to get it detailed. Like, I'm not saying that all small companies have older trucks or subpar equipment. This was just my experience in this particular case. This is my experience. So some of these things you will not deal with at a mega carrier. You're not going to have no Peary truck. You're not going to have no funky truck. You're not going to have no 8-year-old, 7-year-old truck at a mega carrier, because they have the money to switch out those trucks. And then I think for insurance purposes, they need to switch them out pretty often too. Would I go with another smaller company again? Yes, but I have more questions to ask. I'm fully prepared to, when I get there and see what I'm working with, just walk away and not be ashamed of it or afraid of that, you know. Yeah. Like if I was buying a truck for me, I wouldn't mind driving an 8-year-old, 10-year-old truck, but it's gonna be maintained. The drawers are not gonna be falling out of the thing as I'm driving.
This drawer, when I was turning out at the truck stop onto a side road, not even a sharp turn, this did this, except it was on the side. It fell out of there onto the side.
Broke. I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. It's just, it was too much. The truck was raggedy. You know, the truck had bullet holes, it had claw marks, it was, the airbags had a gangster lean, like, it was just too much, man. It was too much. It was too much.